Hello everyone, how you doing? This is a new space, so I'm trying to make sure that I think this looks pretty good. I'm going to get a bigger board in the future, but I think this works for drawing. Oh, except this great big board thing in the corner. I'll just move it over. Okay, that'll be good, huh? Alright, so I promised you a lecture, a longer one, on finished drawings, and so that's what I'm going to do today. First, I'm just going to remind you what a finished drawing is. It's full range of tints and shades, at least 7, including black and white for this class. Line variety, which means no outlining either. Going off at least 3 sides of the picture plane. And then 1/3, you know what that is, at least 3 sides, and we'll talk about that when we crop this one. 1/3 lighter white, 1/3 medium, and 1/3 darker black. And then texture, paying attention to texture, especially when dealing with the 5th thing, which is foreground, middle ground, background. You want a lower texture, contrast back here, and a higher one, lower, usually when it's closer to the viewer. And we talked about that with composition. So you'll probably recognize this one from the door of the classroom. I'm wearing a hat because I can hear now, but I still have the ear thing going on. So anyway, so this one you recognize from the door. Now, I talked last time about starting on large paper and then cropping it because it gives you a lot more options. So you could crop this anywhere, and anywhere you want it to, as long as it's no smaller than that 18 by 24. So when you start on this large paper, however you want it to, when you start on this large paper, that's not necessarily your picture plane, that's just your paper. Okay, so, and notice how it's got full range, there's no outline, it's got use your eraser. So we're going to start on this drawing. I prepped my surface already. Now I'll kind of show you what that means. I'm sure you remember, but just in case you don't. So nice that we've already had at the class. So you could see I actually left these little swirly marks so you could see that I spread that graphite around, and you can either leave them or not. This is maybe a little light. You can go a little darker, but anywhere around in the middle tone is good. I'm getting a little reflection, but I think you could see. So I guess let's start with kind of remembering what we need. Before you start this drawing, you'll need some paper towels to do some smudging. You'll need your eraser. You'll need an X-Acto knife. I'm supposed not to show you, but to scrape the graphite. You'll need this big chunk thing. And then you'll need some whatever kind of graphite you like better for doing details. You'll also need your, like this one needs to be sharpened, your X-Acto knife to sharpen your pencils. Okay, so the thing that you won't need with this, unless you're working on toned paper, and you can, but remember, you have to, it's better to start on large paper. But if you want to try some of these finished drawings on toned paper, that's fine too. I wouldn't do all of them, but I guess you could. So you'll need only use white charcoal if you're using toned paper, and remember not to mix them because graphite and white charcoal don't really play well together. So let the paper be the medium tone between them, okay? So I'll show you what I'm going to draw. And again, finished drawings, it's always better to do them in front of a window or a bright light source because you get a lot of lights and darks. Now, I'm going to come over here. You can see that. I've got kind of a small working space here, and it's see right there, plants. So that's what I'm going to be drawing right here. I'll block out some of this light. There you go. Now you can kind of see those darks and lights and how they'll work for you. All right. I'm going to put this back up here so you can watch me draw. I just wanted you to see what I was looking at. It's pretty much impossible for me to show you both. Oh, maybe. Well, let me see if I can get this a little closer. I'm just concerned about this glare down here in the corner. Let me see if I can see it close. I guess that's it. Anyway, you can see what I'm drawing. I'm not sure which works better for you. So I'm going to start. Oops. I need a little cup to put these in. Alright, I'm going to start with negative space. Right? Always. Always, always, always. And, is that in your way? Can't really see that, can you? Okay, so I'm going to start with negative space. I don't know why that looks like it's so far away from this. Whatever. I'm going to start with negative space, and I'm going to draw this kind of big because the larger that you draw it, the fewer shapes you have to put in. You know, the more back your perspective, and the more of it you draw, the more shapes you'll have to put in, and there'll be smaller shapes. So I'd rather do some larger shapes. This is kind of a complicated composition with all these leaves going everywhere. So I'm going to really blow this up. And remember, I only have to use half of it. This is actually kind of like the plant drawing. And you don't have to be perfect with these. They don't have to be perfect in the way it's really, you just want to pay attention to the, looking at the angle. You want to pay attention to the tones more than anything. This is a 6B. Seems kind of like, yep. All right, where was I up here? You know, you don't have to get these perfect. It's better that you concern yourself with the lights and darks. And there's a little plant right down there, but I'm gonna leave that one out. So like this, and then let me see, is that the right angle? Yeah, that's gonna go like that. All right, so that's my negative space. Now I could start doing my plant. This thing comes like there's some shapes here, and remember when you're drawing this, just think of them as a series of abstract shapes, not this is a leaf, and well, this actually is abstract. I mean, it looks kind of like a leaf, but not an everyday leaf. But anything you draw, just remember, you know, you're just drawing different shapes. That's your subject matter. You're not drawing a glass or a spoon or, you know, it's just the shapes that you find in there. There's another thing over here. And after I get all these kind of like negative space shapes in here, then I'm going to put some really dark darks in there, and then I'm actually going to rub it again. This is looking pretty ugly, isn't it? All right, so now I think I'm going to use this one. This crayon. Yeah. So now I hope you can see this okay. I hope it's not... Sorry, it's hard for me to see because this room is so light coming from the other way. Hope I didn't scare you there getting too close. Alright, so I'm going to put some darks in here. This board is not the sturdiest, but you get the picture. And I'm just going to... This dirt down here is actually kind of high textured and very dark because the plant's in the way. There's actually another plant here. I was going to leave it out, but we'll decide later. So I'm leaving it kind of a high texture here, but this is all really black, really, really black here. So that's how I'm going to put it in there. I know that this is probably longer than any of you want to stand here and watch me draw, but I promised you that I would do this. I promised I said I would. And of course, you know, you don't have to watch the whole thing. You can, this one's optional because it's pretty long, but I think it might help. And even if you want to skip around, you know, you can go forward in this. Like I said, I'm going to leave this high texture here because it's really, really dark and there's lumps of dirt and some sticks and, oh, there's a worm. No, just kidding. There's no worm. It's just something to breathe. But just sitting here drawing, I'm not used to people, you know, watching me draw the whole time. And I'm probably going faster than you would. I don't, take that personal or anything because I've been doing this for a while, and this might not even turn out as good as yours because I'm not trying to take a whole bunch of time. All right, that's pretty good. And then there's some more darks up here. There's some darks under here a little bit. And there's a really dark here. Dark black triangle there. Some of these leaves are pretty dark, especially down in here. So I'm going to put that in. And remember, I'm going to refine this. You always want to work from general to specific, right? This leaf is pretty dark too. Anything where the light is not shining on top of it, but behind it, is going to be pretty dark. See, this leaf right here is facing this way. And notice how when I came down here, I made room for this other leaf that's kind of sticking up there, right there. This one just kind of has a medium tone, so we'll leave that. This one's pretty dark, especially along this side. Now, notice I'm not drawing one hard line. When I'm adding tone, I'm more doing a shape. I can refine it later, but I don't want to do a bunch of hard, heavy lines, straight lines like this. I'm going to fill that in. You want it to be more shapes, okay? I just put an extra leaf in there, it doesn't matter. This one's got a little bit of dark. This one right here really doesn't have too much, just kind of on the tip. And this one just has it on the underneath side. I'm not even sure what that line is, so I guess it's going to be another leaf. We'll see. Okay, right there. All right, that looks pretty good. Now I think I'm ready to spread this around more. All right. Can you see that? Okay, good. And I'm doing this just to give myself some more gray tones. This saves me a lot of time when I'm going back in and bringing out some grays. In fact, I'm going to put it down on the ground and hold it a little bit harder. I'll be right back. All right. So now how many tones do you think I have? Probably about 5, maybe, counting some of these lines. And what about, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3? Not really. First of all, I need some whites. So just to kind of tell me where I'm going to be here, I'm going to erase some of these whites back in right now. Because I think that it helps to go, I start from darks and then put the lights in. And some people don't. Most people do, but some people start with the medium tones. And I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong because, everybody works differently, right? I'm just telling you the way that I work. This is actually really light here. This leaf, because the light's shining on it. And don't get hung up too much on it looking like it. If you're looking at what you're supposed to draw, it might not look, at least half the time, remember that's the rule, it might not look exactly like it, but it's going to, it's still going to be a better looking drawing than if you try and make it up out of your head. Because you try and make it up, it looks like a symbol of a plant, and symbols of plants are not really that exciting. See, this is a problem sometimes when you can't get this off, and then you go to brush it off, and then you're just covering up all that white that you just revealed, right? These are pretty. This one's white. This one's really white at the tip. And also down here a little bit. This one's pretty white on top. Especially on this side. Some of these. So you don't have to press as hard with this eraser either. You can just kind of go soft like that. Now, some of you are going to want to refine these more than others, especially those of you who already like to draw, right? And that's fine. You can do that, but you don't have to. I mean, as soon as it satisfies the criteria, Let me see. I think I'm going to put this plant in here too. I'm not really sure where I'm going to crop it yet, but I'm about ready to start thinking about that. So I don't have any darks on this plant. You can go either way. I'm just starting with the lights right now. And I don't think I'm going to go any further out with it than that. This actually has some whites in it too, right? Where all this soil is, but it's not a lot. So I'm just going to kind of go over it. I don't know if I'm going to do this plant. I don't think so. I think let's look at the cropping tools. Where are my cropping tools? It's starting to get close. All right. So let's say I crop it right here. That's big enough, right? Maybe I even want to go out to here. So it's got a little bit of outlining right here. So I'm going to fix that maybe by putting background on. It's got full range of tints and shades or very close, and I'll get that maybe one or two more in there as well. It does go off 4 sides. It's picture plane. It's pretty close to 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and it has foreground and middle ground and background. Although it's pretty abstract because there's not a lot of detail in this plant. These are the leaves in the foreground, in the background, and the middle ground and the background. So we're getting really close, and I'm not going to, sit here and refine it to a high degree. I'm just going to try and put in some. I think that there's actually a vertical post back there behind it. If you can see it right here. And this is. I think I'm going to put that in there, just because it's going to break up this really organic kind of drawing. Really, in fact, I should use a straight edge of some sort. It's structural. It'll break up this very organic plant. Oh, one more thing I forgot to say. Make sure that you tape yours all the way around. I know mine ripped crooked, but I knew I wasn't going to use the whole paper anyway when I started, so I didn't mind. Tape it all the way around so that when you get close to the edge with the dark lines, it doesn't rip, okay? And like I said, turn the drawing board, you don't have a drawing board, any kind of table or anything that you're drawing on. I have to improvise in these times, I guess. So here, I'm gonna find a straight edge. I'm gonna draw. Actually, this has got a couple of lines within that whole trim piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them all in, and then this one, and then it's got some lines that go this way too. I'm not sure how carried away I'm gonna get with these because I'm not even sure if they're gonna be on there. But we'll just kind of suggest them. You don't want high textures in the background really anyway. Well, I guess you can see it under here, can't you? In between these leaves. Now I know these are outlines, but you'll see how I'm going to change them in a minute. Okay. All right. So this one right here, I guess my lines aren't very straight. Let me see. Maybe I can fix it a little bit just by going down here, maybe. Let's see. Okay. So this right here, because this is the edge, the sun's over here outside the window, this is really dark. I know that's a dark line, but it's not an outline because I'm filling this in, right? There's actually some wood grain over here that I could put in, but I've got enough organic stuff going on. Be really careful when you get close to the edges because where that plant starts and the background, ends, or vice versa, those lines have to be really crisp and clear, and you can't go over it like I did there. So then I have to come in with my eraser, and if you do them really heavy, you won't be able to erase them. And that's one of the most important things about refining your drawing. You see how that popped that out in front of that now? Let's see. I'm not going to scare you by looking at you. Hopefully you can see it. Just work that good in this light. I'll have to come up with a different alternative. I think it's just me that can't see you, but we'll see. And then this part right here is pretty light. And then this part here, and you can go this way if you want. Just be really gentle so you don't see any lines. Kind of go in circles right by the edge of the plant instead of trying to go like that and stay off of that that plant, because it's really important that you do that. And I'll just, now I'm getting rid of this outline, I'll do this bottom too the same way, right by the plant only, just so I have a little buffer. And right by the plant again, right? Oh, I need to erase that. You can probably see this. I mean, I'm getting really detailed here, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this. I just want to do this for the background, and then I'll just put some more detail, just a little bit more on the plant, and then we'll be pretty much done. Let me see here. This is actually a medium tone. I'll put that in there right now, and this is a dark, and this is light. Okay, so I think the plant actually covers this up, but we'll put it in there anyway. So, and this is also where you have to think about texture, because this part of the board needs to be pretty, the texture needs to be pretty low because it's in the background. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to fill it in a little bit further away from this edge here and down here too. And then I'm just going to try and put it in there a little quickly. And then I'm going to smudge it with my thing, with my paper towel. And then I'll erase the edge. The reason I'm going in different directions is because I want this texture to be smooth. And if I'm going in the same direction all the time, it won't. And I'm kind of doing those circles too, right? And why do I want this texture to be smooth again? That's right, because it's in the background. Nice job. How's everything going with everyone? You can't answer me, so I guess I can ask you anything you want. And you can't answer me live. Everyone with the sheltering at home. So now I got quite a bit of lines in there. But if I go like this, now I'm going to end up risking smudging it. Go this way. Smudging it over here, but I can come back with my eraser and just clean that up a little bit, right? Okay, and then down here. I mean, drawing takes time. There's no doubt about it. I know that, everyone's really busy with all the stuff that's going on. And I just hope that you can find the time to do this. Maybe you'll find it relaxing. Maybe it will help you cope with all of the craziness that's going on. I sure do miss having everyone in class, though. Some of you probably agree with me, and some of you probably don't, and it doesn't even matter. Because I'm here and you're there, right? But you can still complain if you want to. So does that make sense? So now I've got the plant. So now what I would do, let me look at this a little better and see where I would really mark that. And again, if you want to keep this whole composition, then you can. So I'd probably crop it right here, right? Maybe a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to come down with my line here. So this, now what I'm doing is I'm redefining the edge of my picture plane. And I think I'd go like right here. And maybe I've got a lot of the same kind of lines and shapes over here. So I think I'm going to cut it off right about there. So now, and I'm just going to freehand it. It doesn't really have to be straight. When you go, we'll talk about matting and framing at the end. A group critique. And I'm going to have to figure out, oh yeah, that's right, we're doing the paper. But we're still going to talk, at group critique, we usually talk about matting and framing and finishing and preserving your work and stuff. We're still going to talk about that. So maybe I can zoom in a little bit more now since we're just working in one little tiny area. Again, it's kind of hard. I might have to change this so I can see what you're seeing, but we'll see how it looks for you. That's the most important thing. So now this is in the foreground, and this is really high detailed, and this looks a little less detailed. You could actually leave this like this and submit it. And in more advanced class, I would say no, this needs to be more highly detailed. But for this class, as long as you have those criteria on that list, criteria for a finished drawing that I talked about and that's posted on Canvas, then you're fine. But if I wanted to come in, and now I know I don't have to draw out here, although I should have went to kind of like that. So I only have to draw in here. So now that'll help me too, because now I know that, I don't have to go outside of this little box here. And I don't want this to be the same tone as that. So even if that plant is darker that I'm looking at, I'm going to leave it a little bit lighter, just so that I can distinguish the plant. And I'm actually just going to take these dark lines that I have here. I know sometimes it's hard to see if I'm, and I'm just going to kind of refine them, right? And even the white ones, and this can be abstract too. So I'm just making it look a little, a little bit more refined. So it's almost like it's in better view. And I'll just do this leaf probably, and then maybe I'll do more. It just takes a lot of time. See this outline right here? We can't have that. I can't erase that now because if I do, I'll just have another white line. Now 2 lines, dark line and a white line. So I didn't draw it too dark, fortunately, but I'm just going to take that tone of that line and I'm just going to extend it just part way. The background, remember, as I said before, you can do whatever you want with the background. So if I want to make this background darker, I can. If I want to make it lighter, that's fine too. You have more leeway with the background. See now how I hope you can see how I got rid of that outline. And I can go further with this if I want, but that's actually looks pretty good. I've got a line from this leaf that's in back, that's up here. So I'm going to erase that. And I know that that leaf's not really white there, but I'm just going to pretend like it is just to get rid of that. Or I could go into it and get rid of it more and just bring it back to the medium tone. Let me see here. Make this line nice and crisp. And it's not an outline. Remember, this line is a tone. And I'll do the same thing down here. I'm just going to add some, just to refine this leaf a little bit more so it looks, more like it's in the foreground and not quite so sketchy. I really quickly kind of put my shapes in there. And now I'm just, let me just follow the shape of the leaf. And I don't have to get too crazy with this. I'm just kind of trying to, these leaves are pretty smooth, so I don't want to leave a lot of texture there. In fact, I could do even more like this, but it's in the foreground, so it's going to have some texture. This one needs a little bit of smoothing out, right? Now, if these leaves had a bunch of, different streaks of tones on them, they don't. They have a few little speckles that I'm not putting in at all. But most of the tone is going to be really subtle because it is from the sunlight, right? This, see here, this needs to be really, instead of trying to erase that, I'm just going to turn it into part of this leaf, right? Okay. And I'll do another one of these in probably a week or two, and I'll do it outside. I don't get to do that too often, but since we can't go outside and draw the basilica, I figure I'll do it. It's called plein air. I don't speak French, but there's a lot of words that are in French. Remember, this is not part of the. But plein air means open air. It means painting outside. And remember, I think I mentioned this, but not. I will again. The Impressionists, like Monet, water lilies and all that, they were French, and they were finally able to go out and paint outside because of one of the inventions from the Industrial Revolution. Notice I'm going across the contour here like this. You don't always want to do that, but in the shape of a leaf, you sure, why not? So anyway, the invention from the Industrial Revolution that enabled them to go outside and paint was the tin tube, because they finally had something to put their paints in that wouldn't dry. See, there was a line here on the top of this leaf, so I'm just turning that into not an outline, but a line that's created by a difference in tone. There's this really heavy thing here. I want to get rid of that. I want that to be smooth. The inside and underneath of that plant is the darkest because obviously, light can't get there as easy. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3 light leaves done to pretty smooth, not perfect, but more closely resembles this plant anyway. Might as well continue on because you can just stop this whenever you want, right? as soon as you get bored. I'm going to leave some of that lightness there. In fact, I might even bring my eraser back because I want this leaf to stick out from the one behind it. Right? And I'm just kind of, getting rid of some of these sketchy lines and making sure that it's dark inside. Now, I'm kind of half filling it in by guessing and then looking at the plant as well. I'm not following the plant exactly. I'm just trying to follow where the lights and darks mostly are. So this one's coming right at me. So this one's going to be pretty distinct right there. And it's actually really dark on this side, except for it's catching the light right there. Okay. And it's basically half of the leaves. It's dark. Now, you're going to get smudge elsewhere, but you can always clean it up with your eraser, right? Yeah, I'm going back and forth this way, but now I'm also going this way because you don't want, remember those, can you see that? Those incidental lines that come from between? You can have them there, you just have to use them strategically, right? Like, okay, that looks okay like that, and it should go there. Gosh, I wish I shortened it because I don't really want to draw this down here. Maybe I will shorten it. I guess I could shorten it to right about here, huh? That's still the size of my sketchbook paper. See, now if I started on the small paper, I wouldn't be able to do that. And I'd be unhappy with myself and the rest of the world. Except for all of my students who I'm never unhappy with, right? That's why I do this. Let me see. This one, I have to come down like this. And I'm going to have to lighten up this side a little bit. Because that side of it. And then there's another leaf behind it. So this is another real hard edged here that I'm not going to leave as an outline. I'm going to fill that in to, bring that leaf out, to not flatten it out. Starting to look a little better, huh? I mean, it could definitely use some more refinement, but I think that's it's satisfied the criteria, and that's what we care about. This one right here, let's fill that in so it looks a little bit. And I think I'm going to take, because I only have a medium tone right here above this, I think I could take my eraser and erase that back pretty well to make it look like it's catching the light. And remember, even line variety everywhere, even when you're doing, like making something catch the light or something like that, you never want to have that line be, I shouldn't say never, sometimes you do, but usually that line, unless it's a structure like this in the background, you want it to be broken up a little bit to make it just look more three-dimensional. And actually, I'm just filling this in. This is the leaf behind that one. I don't need to put anything in the background because these shapes are pretty small there. Okay. I want to erase this a little bit. I'm just going to bring this whole leaf up a little bit in tone. There we go. Oh, and it ends right there, so that works out good. So one more thing I need to get rid of and actually bring out some of these leaves in the foreground, and that's this line right here. And I'm just going to do the same thing I did before. I'm just going to fill in the other side of it with that darker tone, and I'm just going to blend it out, and no one will even notice anything. Now, I still want to come back and do a little bit. Not all the way, but just a little bit. Oops, I guess I went a little bit too high. That's all right. I guess I could have just did that to begin with. That's not too bad. All right, so this one right here comes out towards the viewer, and it's really dark here. And then it's got a really, really white line right at the end, right here. And then this whole top part of it is not real white, but lighter than the leaf behind it. Okay, so that does that look like it sticks out more? Maybe when it's pretty dark here too, so maybe when I get this in there. Okay, there's another leaf sticking up here, but I'm just going to pretend like it's not there. See, I'm going the other direction because I don't want those lines to show. there we go. Blend that a little bit. Now I've got this thing here that I don't like because it's coming from the other one, so I'm going to have to take some artistic license and make that line a little darker than it is. Or I should have been more careful with those lines, but I wasn't, so I'll just get rid of them like this. I think that works, huh? Well, somewhat. Anyway, I just got one more, and that's over here. This one is actually really dark underneath of it. Kind of like this one. Not a big surprise. So I'm just going to make this whole thing dark here, really black. And if you don't know if you have black, or if I say you don't have black in this and you say, oh, it looks like black to me, just go back and look in the remember that tonal scale that we did in your kit. You should have it, and I made you do that one square really, really black. Well, this is why, and I'm so glad I did that, because now I can just tell you to go look at that. So that's not too bad. So here's my picture plane. I'll do a squiggly line, might be easier to see it. And I'm so glad that I started on the large, oops, sorry, even here. I'm so glad I started on the large paper, otherwise I'd still be drawing, because I would have had smaller shapes. I would have been able to change my picture plane. So how does that look? All right, next, I think next time, did I already showed you texture? I can't remember if we're doing another finished drawing, or if we're starting a linear perspective next time. But you'll find out when you look at the next video. And I'm going to continue to do these YouTube links because they just seem more dependable to me. Don't forget to check in each week, even if you're not submitting a drawing. So I'm going to go through that one more time. So just to cut down on all the emails that I get, if you submit a drawing during any given week, and try and submit the drawings for that week. I had some people that submitted the still life during the foreshortening drawing, and that's fine. I'll figure it all out in the end, but it's just easier for me if you submit the still life in that first week and the thumbnails, and then you submit like the drawings for that week within the week. And that's why the first one just has a 1. And if you submitted the drawing during the foreshortening week, you just got a 1 too. It's just a place marker for your attendance. And like I said, I'll go back and sort it all out later. So if you don't try and submit it on the week that it's supposed to be due. And if you don't submit anything, you have to, most of you, except for one class, have to submit twice a week. So if you don't submit anything one of those days or both of those days, then you have to email me. You don't have to do both, though. However, if you submit a drawing twice, like let's say you worked on this, you submit it, and I said, oh no, you need more darks. And then you submit it again for that week on Canvas, which you can do. That's the only time that you have to email me if you submit it, because it doesn't alert me once I've given you a score. So what it does is it shows up as a little piece of paper, a little notebook paper with stripes on it when you submit something. And then I click on it, and then I give you a score and a comment. And then if you submit something else on that same one, it doesn't alert me anymore. So you have to alert me manually by emailing me. I hope that all makes sense. See you in the next video. See if you can see the screen. Stop it. And okay. Oh, like my hands. And